How can playing hours of video games as a kid turn you into a successful entrepreneur? We'll take you to an esports and gaming lounge run by a former GameStop manager and a Microsoft rep. And we'll introduce you to a guy who wants to take video games to your weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and corporate events. That's today on Games on Lock. Imagine you're planning a wedding. But instead of just the usual open bar, dance floor, DJ, you want a little something more. Maybe you want to play Duck Hunt, or Pac-Man, or Mario Kart 64. Chris Atala can do that. We sat down with Chris and learned how he turned his event planning background and his love of video games into games done legit.
So I was lucky enough to grow up with an Atari in the house. So I was playing Atari when I was like 2, 3, and then my grandpa, who was a lifer at IBM, so he really knew computers. He got us a Commodore 64 when I was 4, so that got me into even like learning, simple commands on how to like launch the games and all that stuff. What led me to start this like weird company is that so just for fun, my friend and I started in college what became the second biggest Street Fighter and like Mortal Kombat tournament in the world after a couple of years, and really loved doing it, but it was kind of time to move on after about 6 or 7 years of that. And because by accident we had created like a destination event. Basically more people from all over the world came to our event and like came from Ohio, and we were flying people from like Japan and like Europe out, and like making all these travel arrangements and budgeting this event and figuring out how much we could spend, so how much we would make afterwards and everything. So I really just wanted to be like an entry level like 30K salary event coordinator. It's a very high stress, low pay job, but this is what I like to do. I like to the fruits of my labor, basically. I could see that it made someone happy, like right in front of me. You don't have to wait to see a picture of it 8 months down the line to see a finished product or something. I just would respond to that. So with this tournament and with some nonprofit experience, I couldn't find a job. I couldn't even get interviews to be just like an event coordinator. So I worked my mom gave me the idea to just be a server at Lander Haven, an events venue here in Cleveland on the east side, just to, kind of get to learn the ropes a little bit and see if I could move up there. So I really enjoyed just like taking care of people, and I would ask to do whatever extra work that I possibly could. I ran like spotlights for fashion shows there. I would play piano like during cocktail hours, and I just like took the job just like really seriously. And the events industry, especially if you start out just like as a server, to move up to like running parties, it's like I was going from like $9.50 an hour to like $10.50 an hour to be like in charge of like these parties and like events and stuff. So it's like, oh, there's got to be a better way to possibly make a living than get kind of like caught in this vortex. So through the party planners, I kind of made friends with the party planners at Lander Haven and everything, and was really curious about their work, and I wanted their events to look really great. So then I learned about this group called the International Special Events Society, which is an acronym that we don't use anymore because it was ISIS. Now it's called the International Live Events Association. And so I would attend this kind of like networking event and meet other people, in the industry and everything. But a lot of these people were just, normal people who, started with like one idea, either, to be a DJ, or they worked for a lighting company and then just said like, hey, I could do this myself. So I was surrounded by these people who gave me like really great advice and were very generous with their encouragement about, and instead of just saying like, oh, like this is like, you're in some like goofy little video game thing, you like don't really belong here. People would say, wow, that sounds like really cool. That would be really great for corporate team building, or kids would love that for bar mitzvah entertainment. So it's kind of like thanks to this group that I even, got the inkling that you could just start a business basically. No one in my family had like, they're all middle managements. Like no one had ever like done anything like this before, so I didn't really have an example of it. So so that's kind of how my events experience and gaming experience kind of brought me to start this company that's kind of like doing both for people for like events and entertainment. Well, like a lot of DJs, they'll start off doing like karaoke at bar nights or just like DJing bars, like being out all night for like a few bucks. So I got a couple bars in Cleveland to have me come in and just put video games like all over the place, classic, 80s and 90s video games, like all the tables and just kind of like as general entertainment. And that way at least I had a little revenue stream going. And at the desk job that I had after I worked at Lander Haven, we were all on like this big project, and then we all got treated a little bit better than the rest of the company because we were on this like big project that lasted for like 8 months or whatever. And once the project ended and I was like back with all the grunts having to like clock in and you can't use the internet, at your job, I was just like, well, I got these bar events going and I got a little money coming in, like I think I'm just gonna quit. So thankfully my girlfriend, now wife, has like supported me through this whole process. I can't really imagine what she was thinking when I did this, but she was always very supportive. And so that's kind of what I started doing. And this whole time I've really just learned, from other people, from like books, from learning from other business owners, like what it means to run a business as opposed to I've created a job for myself, basically. And after getting a really great business coach who could help me with like marketing and sales and the things that aren't as exciting and interesting to me as like seeing people have a great time with, video games and like virtual reality at our events. Slowly but surely, this is like grown, and we're able to, bring more money in and like starting to like learn how to delegate and bring other people into this so it can like grow a little bit faster. So, I mean, it's maybe not the recommended way to start a business. It definitely isn't. But, I've just always kind of followed my heart and figure that, if you put yourself in the right places and the positions to succeed and you're like just paying attention, basically that, good things can happen. So
I don't know about you, but I can't think of a more fun event than one with classic video games. But you don't need a special occasion to have fun. Meet Carrie and Larry, creators of One Life to Play. Carrie, a former GameStop manager, wanted to get out of retail, so she teamed up with Larry, her Microsoft rep, and they've created a popular and ever-growing esports and gaming lounge.
I was the only child and the youngest in the family, so me playing video games was kind of how I just occupied myself when everything else was going on around me, like, the adults doing stuff, and I had to figure out something to do. So I kind of sat down and played video games. Not that it wasn't, morning till night, but it was another thing for me to do. So yeah, I basically played to entertain myself when I was younger. And then, after that, there's multiplayer, and, you get friends and you can actually play with people, and it just kept spreading.
I got started in video games as a young kid. I think I remember starting to play games as young as 4 or 5 years old, playing Nintendo, Simon's Quest, Super C, Master Blaster, is it Blaster Master? I can't even remember anymore. But it was so long ago, just playing, NES, then going into Sega Genesis, just always having a love for video games.
I've always been interested in business. My father was an entrepreneur and head of a lot of things growing up, so I was kind of surrounded by it. And I was a manager in retail for 16 years before this. So, I always had that position, but I was tired of doing that position for someone else. So I wanted to take that and do something on my own with it. And this is the perfect fit. It's the video games that I've always loved, and, me managing myself and my employees, and it's not a hard job. There's stressful moments, but it's not a hard job, and it was kind of a natural progression for me, just because of how I was raised and where I went myself.
I decided that I liked sales, I liked marketing, so I got into places like Best Buy, working through Microsoft and places like that gave me an opportunity to get into the real world of video games and how video games get made, how they're, marketed and published, and really learning the community behind those players. And once I realized what that was, it gave me the drive to want to just talk more about video games and express my love of video games to people. So that's when I started doing a internet radio show back in 2007. just out of Cleveland, Ohio, small little internet radio studio. I would go in every week and just do a show, named it One Life to Play from the get-go, from episode 1. And at that time, you know, we grew a good following of people who were just interested in hanging out with us and talking video games. We would have developers on, we would have voice actors on, and we would do those interviews and just had a good time doing it. And that's when I'd said, you know, video games is going to get huge. They're going to get big in terms of professional gaming and esports. And I just had that drive to continue down that road and learn all I could about with the esports side of video games, not just have fun with them, but figure out, you know, how that can be a life.
Before this, I was a manager at GameStop for 6 years. And Larry was my I almost said Nintendo. He would be real mad. My Microsoft rep. So we kind of started talking that way with him coming in, and us kind of both realizing we played outside of just, you know, what's in front of us at GameStop and Microsoft. And he had a podcast going, and one of my assistant manager was on his podcast, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you come in too?" And we just clicked right away. I mean, right away. And within probably a month of me doing the podcast with him, we were talking about this, and a year later, here we are.
One Life to Play formed out of the talk show in a sense of how can we find a way to get all of the gamers that enjoyed a specific game together. And I would always sit back with my friends and we would play like Mario Sunshine on GameCube and just have a good time doing it. And it was that couch co-op that really sparked the idea of where's the social ability in playing video games nowadays. The idea that we've moved to a lot of cloud gaming, digital gaming, multiplayer online kind of made the ideal of couch co-op or getting together in LAN parties more obsolete than ever. But I felt that was still a key component, you know, of what gaming is. It's this social aspect. You think back to the arcade where you would just go and put quarters into an X-Men, you know, multiplayer game, or put quarters into Street Fighter, NBA Jam, whatever it was. But as you put those quarters in, you drew a crowd and you had spectators watching and cheering you on. You had competition daily. Slap a quarter down, I got winners, you know? And that's what it was about for me growing up and playing video games when I was outside of the home. And during the show, so many more people agreed to that, to say, I want to find places that I can go and see the people that I'm playing online against, and I can meet them, and I can, you know, develop friendships and you know, lifelong relationships with these people. So the thought is how do we make that something not just profitable but sustainable? It wasn't about how can you make money off of someone's enjoyment of video games, but how can you make those video games more accessible, more sociable, and more competitive, you know, in the direction that we were going with video games.
So you come in here and you can actually like yell at the person you're playing against, and it's, especially when we have tournaments, it's great to watch that, because, you know, these people are used to headsets and just turning it off and walking away, and now they're kind of confronted with the person that just kicked their ass. So just the it's humorous. Some, you know, it's actually been a lot calmer than I expected it to be. I thought there'd be a lot more screaming and broken things and fighting, and it's not. It's just just fun. And then the businesses that are excited about this, you know, even like Play CLE and those kind of places that I never thought would be interested in something like this, they see it as a new thing that Cleveland didn't have before, and they're all interested to see what we're going to do and how they can be a part of it. So, you know, there's stuff that we can't make public yet, that, you know, we haven't quite finalized it, but it's getting there. But there's big things coming with companies and projects that I never thought would even take a second look at us, let alone come to us to be a part of it.
Let's head inside One Life to Play and check out some of the action.
Do your worst! Miss me! Stay up! Looks like a
Battle 1. Fight!
Give in! Little girl! Stand
Ready? Huh? I see ya.
Ready?
Battle 2. Fight!
Relinquish!
Battle
Something
3.
special.
Fight!
Stand back!
I refuse to lose. How's this?
Ready? Darkness! I shall drown the world!
Looks like
Battle 1. Fight!
over here. What? Like that? You're mine.
Worthless lump!
Over here. Try this. What? I can do
Battle 2. Fight!
Where it ends! Stop! You're done! Over here!
Fly high!
You have to be
Battle 3. Fight!
Oh my!
Lend me your strength!
I refuse to lose! Ready? I'm
You shall make a fine sacrifice! Stay down!
All together, justice will prevail! Look,
Battle 1. Fight!
block this! What?
Give in! Little girl! Relinquish
something special.
Fight!
This is where it ends. I got it. That was great. Go.
Battle 4. Fight!
I can do this.
Fly high! Give in. Listen, girl. Bring up!
Do your worst. Miss me.
Boy, isn't it cool to see people take their love of video games and turn it into a job they actually enjoy doing? Thanks to Carrie and Larry from One Life to Play, thanks to Chris from Games Done Legit, and thanks to you for watching. Until next time, I'm Andrew Luftglass, and you're watching Games on Lock.